Welcome to my daily review. Today is Cinco de Mayo, May 5, 2025. It is a Monday, and you can see on the Nasdaq today it was down 133 points or 0.74%. Closed at 17,844 on 15% below the 50-day average volume. You can see that we've had this move here. Well, first of all, I'll go back. We had a correction of 27% here from peak to trough, and then we rallied up 22%. And today we gave back, what did I say, 0.75%. So this is a good, what be called a back and fill day or digestion day or whatever you want to call it. It's not going to go up every day. I just want to be cautious, below the 200, we are not out of the woods here at all. It's still 2.6% below this black line, which is the 200. Yes, it rallied through the 10, it rallied through the 21, it rallied through the 50. And now, it makes sense for it to kind of pause here and stall a little bit. Allow these moving averages to catch up. There's the 10. It looks like it's going to trade through the 50 tomorrow, and your 21 is not far behind. So, overall, just a good, I would say productive, constructive, digestive day on the NASDAQ. And this is good longer term. It's not going to go up every day. We've had this nice 22% rally, and for it to pause here is understandable, logical, and for it to digest gains. If you just take a look at the weeklies here, we've had some massive moves up here. On the weekly here, on the April 11th week, it was up 7%. 3 weeks ago, it was up 6.7%. Last week, it was up 3.4%. So you can see today's move is just a little blip. Had these wide weekly ranges. So if it calms down this week, that is a plus, in my opinion. I'm going to go to the SPY here. I just want to point out on the SPY, we had 3 months in a row that were negative, which, three legs down. And it hasn't done that much, since the bear market essentially. And anyway, it's the same as the Nasdaq here, below the 200. Had these, 3 of the past 4 weeks have had massive up moves with the hammer candles here in the prior 2 weeks. So for it to give a little bit of a pause here is understandable. It's trading 1.7% below the 200, 1.4% above this downtrending 50. But you can see the 10 and the 21 here look like they're ready to rally through the 50. So these, if we're going to get into this V-shaped rally, if we're going to get into a power trend, these things going to take some time here, and it's not going to go up every day. So a pause, a digestion is constructive, overall. I guess I'll go to the Dow. Why not? It was down as well today, 98.0.24%. And since I'm doing this, IWM was down 0.77%. So overall, just the markets were down today, and not unexpected. All right, I'm going to move on. Well, first of all, I've got to get to Apple. Whenever you see all of the indexes down like this, you know that these big, mega cap technology stocks, these large and liquid stocks are probably going to be down. And of course, Apple was down 3% today. They're going to have trouble with the tariffs. This thing got rejected at the 50 here, in the last two sessions have sold off. NVIDIA, not doing much better. It got above its 50, but still, God, it's just so far below the 200. It's hard to be bullish on this stuff. 9% below the 200, which is about 125 right now. It's got $12 to go just to get to the 200. If you just look at the weekly, it's been a long, long, long time since it's been consolidating here last June. So, and then Tesla, I know a lot of people like Apple and NVIDIA and Tesla because they're large and liquid, easy to get in and easy to get out. But man, I can't get into these mega cap tech stocks. They're just, they're below the 200. Tesla consistently being rejected at the 200 here. If it wants to trade through it and show some power, I'm all for it. You could see the 10 and the 21 have traded through the downtrending 50. So that's positive. And I think the more it continues to, make these attempts at the 200, one of these times it's going to break through. So that would cause me to be more bullish. But right now, that 200 SMA is about 292, so it's got some work to do. Just like the indexes, and it's got work to do. All right, I'm going to go to earnings because earnings is what drive these stock prices over the long term, not in the daily and the weekly, but over the long term. Your stock is going to appreciate based on how the sales and earnings growth. And AXSM had a nice report today. A little bit of a declining sales, 81, 66, 62. Still, 62% sales growth is phenomenal. Still, negative on the earnings, but it's getting there. Sales always comes before earnings. And it had a nice response here, up nearly 4% today. And you can see it's got this double bottom base pattern going on. Traded through its 50 today. So good for AXSM, BNTX. This is one of these vaccine plays. It just hasn't done anything for a long, long time. There you can see complete downtrend. Can't get out of a stage one base here. They reported earnings, big red numbers. Blech. All right. TGTX, this is one that I do own. Sold a little before because I was too long before earnings. And you can see there was some profit taking here on Thursday and Friday, but not like today. It got hit with some selling today, down 13% with strong volume. Yeah, I trimmed some. I still hold some because I got such great price on it. Normally, I would totally sell out of a stock below the 50, but it just closed 1.6 below that. 38.29 today was the 50. So it's an uptrending 50. It's a strong stock. We'll see what happens. I've seen a lot of strong stocks sell off after earnings and just do that Livermore, shakeout plus 10. And that's a hell of a shakeout. I'm looking for a rebound tomorrow. The plus 10 would be a 10% move of what, $3.70. We'll see if we get that here in the next couple of sessions. It's got to be right away. Okay. Oh, in the semiconductor play, um, what was this? What was I thinking about this one here? Oh, yeah, down 8% in a downtrend. So not much to think about. Rejected at the 50. Yeah, semiconductor names have just been really tough. I can do Intel, Qualcomm, NVIDIA, that they've all been really, really rough. I guess you could just go to the SMH and look at the entire, yeah, this thing is, yeah, in trouble. This thing actually made it above its a 50, which reminds me, maybe AMD. Yeah, this one's starting to pull up. It's got earnings tomorrow, so maybe just some short covering ahead of earnings. Anyway, I digress. I didn't want to talk about that. What I do want to talk about is more earnings because last weekend we saw Berkshire Hathaway, the CEO or the Oracle of Omaha, Uncle Warren, stepped down on Saturday. He'd been CEO, I guess, in 65. The business started in the 50s. I mean, come on. I was in second grade when this guy took over CEO in 65. It's like 7 or 8 years old. And he's run his business since, before I was born. So he's entitled to step down at the end of the year. He'll be 95 years old. The person who was named as successor has been running the show anyway. So for it to sell off 5% on that news is kind of silly. And that's just kind of the way the market is. It just gets some news and the algorithms just take over and sell, 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 sell. CEO's gone. This is going to bounce back. Berkshire is not going anywhere. I just wanted to point out, that a lot of people say, Uncle Warren's lost a little off his fastball. I just go back 5 years and say, this thing's up 80% in 5 years. Well, how does that compare with the S&P 500? Well, it's lapping the field with the indexes. So Uncle Warren's been a great place to park some money. Even with that 5% drop today, these guys are still lapping the field. Berkshire Hathaway, just a phenomenal, phenomenal company. I guess I could go back to when did he start? 95 or 96 as a publicly traded, the Berkshire B shares. Yeah, they've been lapping the field the whole time. So if you've had it for the last 30 years, congratulations. Definitely a place to park money instead of, the QQQs or the S&P, the SPY. You can just park it in Uncle Warren's Berkshire. Yeah, this has been lapping the field. Good for Uncle Warren. Just wanted to point that out. Congratulations. What a legacy, man. Uh, for for the stock to be down 5%, a lot of people pattern themselves, try to pattern themselves after Warren Buffett and buy the Coca-Colas and the Bank of America and get the dividends, and that's fine. He cited Apple's Tim Cook and Steve Jobs as doing more for Berkshire than he did. So Tim Cook got a standing ovation there on Saturday at their shareholder meeting in Omaha. So congrats to Warren on his retirement and a hell of a job, and hopefully he can enjoy his retirement. All right, so we got a little bit of a break this morning from Donnie Tariff. He says he's going to tariff movies, foreign, I guess made in foreign lands. I don't know. I see a lot of movies made in like Italy and, France and Africa and Asia. I don't know what he's doing, but anyway, it was just it was a sell-off in the morning. This is a gift, if you're into options and buying calls here, the weekly calls would just, yeah, those are ripe to be had. Or if you just want to buy the stock, you get this pullback in this first 10 minutes here. And I normally say, wait and, wait for the bounce. And that's a bounce, when it goes down to 1,107 and then bounces up to 1134. That's a hell of a bounce. It closed at 1134. So, just a gift from our President Trump this morning on tariffs. He's really got to cool it with the tariffs, in my opinion. Is really driving the market crazy. Disney, same thing. This thing got hit, and Comcast got hit with this tariff news. Once again, you sold off at the open. Disney responded. This is a Dow Jones Industrial stock, and yeah, sold off, slightly today. Not as bad as it was at the open, but those stocks got hit on Trump talking about tariffs on the services, and he's not going to do that. Trust me. I mean, he can't put tariffs on services because our economy is, like 70% services. So he just talks a lot, and then, the market reacts and then they go back on it. And it's kind of the same thing with the tariffs. So, yeah, kind of take it with a grain of salt. This is Skechers up 24% today, bought out by 3G Capital for 9.4 billion. You can see here at close of the market cap of 9.2, so it's still got a little bit to go. I think it was $63 and change, 63 and a quarter, something like that. It was the buyout price. But so when I see something like this Skechers, that really kind of surprised me that Skechers got bought out at such a premium as well. And you see something, I look for pin action when I see that, and Crocs was up 3.3% today. No news on Crocs. They're reporting on the 8th, just pin action from, a buyout. And same with Deckers. You got to look around at some of this pin action. This was not up as much as Crocs or ONON. This is flat on the session. And then Nike's a much bigger company, was down. They talked about some reorganization today. I don't think it's going to help this company. This company's in a lot of trouble. It's getting, it just lost its luster. It's relying on aging athletes and just, they haven't done any innovation to their product line. And it's kind of like Starbucks. It's, like the boomer company, and there's younger, hungrier, leaner companies, and Wall Street loves growth, and it's going to go to the growth, and it's going to go away from these stocks. I've talked about that ad nauseum. I know you're probably sick of it. Anyway, I'm going to move on just to some leaders now. Get away from earnings, get away from the news, and get away from tariffs. Spotify. This is one that I wanted to talk about with the earnings move last week here, this big bar, it sold off way below its 50 here on what day was this? They announced earnings in the morning. It was Tuesday morning, traded to a low of 540, right? So then rallied the next day up to 615. That's a $65 move. So that's your shakeout plus three, which is really a shakeout plus 10% move. And that's what I was referring to with the TGTX. They have what, 90% sales growth. And I forgot to mention that companies, when they go from losses to earnings, they go from losing money to making money. The first year or two, studies have shown those are the most profitable times for those companies. So I think in the next year or two will probably be the best time for that stock. Going back to Spotify, will TG do same thing as Spotify? We're gonna have a shakeout plus in. We're gonna have to wait and see. But we've seen a lot of these moves recently on earnings where they get shaken out a little bit. Reddit had a strong earnings report, and it sold off on was it Friday? I guess I could go to like a 10-minute. Yeah. There's your shakeout here, right? Whoa. The 30th, that's like a Wednesday. That might be before. I don't know. No, I think Wednesday was when they reported. Anyway, nice shakeout for Reddit. But to me, I mean, this is not even a bounce. I expected it to be above 120. And this thing's starting to form one of these like wedge type patterns here, which I kind of like. Trading tight, within this base here. It's got to get above the 50 though. It's got to get above its moving averages. I think it will. It's going to take some time here. Yeah, the 50 is 120, so yeah, it's got to show some strength here. It was upgraded this morning, and yeah, it was up 2% on a day where the Nasdaq and all the indexes were down, so not bad. It's just with earnings, we've seen these moves with a shakeout, Spotify, Reddit, with some of these leaders. And then a couple days later, they start moving. CrowdStrike, this is another one. Gosh, I wanted to go back to TG because CrowdStrike had this buy at this pivot at 389, then it ran up and then sold off. Made this, during the correction, it formed this base, and then now it's rallying. It's not making new highs, but it's still a leader. It's trading well above its 10, 21, and 50 are stacked. So CrowdStrike, definitely one to watch. Zscaler, same thing where this thing's making new highs just every damn day. I don't know how many days up in a row it is, but definitely in a power trend. You can see the blue dot here. 10, 21, and 50 are stacked. And yeah, Zscaler just disrespecting the indexes completely. Just yeah, trading higher regardless of what the market's doing. All right, some other names that I'm watching is MicroStrategy, man. The CEO announced he's bought more Bitcoin today. I think he's got, I don't know, like 45 billion and tied up in Bitcoin, but yeah, his market cap is 99 billion. Sold off a little bit today. The currency, whatever, the digital currency, Bitcoins was down today, and MicroStrategy was down with it, but still a strong stock. ODD, this is another strong move after earnings. We're watching some of these, gaps higher, and this one is gap and go, which brings me to ADMA, which gapped higher in FDA news and approval. And now it's doing this, it's squatting, trading tight, making this little pennant pattern. Now they report earnings on Wednesday, so it's kind of hard to get real big size ahead of earnings. But I like this pattern ahead of the earnings. You have to wait for the data because, like I mentioned earlier, with some of these names, you've seen some nice shakeouts, and you don't want to get shaken out. Uber is another leading stock. They report on Wednesday as well. This one, you got to look at the weekly if you're interested. And this is, consolidation on top of consolidation. So this one's been trading sideways for a long, long time. Perhaps it's time for Uber to make a move higher. February of 24 is 81 something, so it hasn't really done much in a long, long time. But showing strength recently. We got to wait to hear from the report on Wednesday. Hood reported last week. Another one with a strong report, not much of a reaction. I mean, you couldn't even tell if you're looking at this chart what day they reported earnings. Maybe that big volume day gave it away. 5% move, but it doesn't really look like much. Pull back to its 10, found support. Just not doing a whole lot. There was a competition. I'll get the information on the competition. Some private equity firm is funding a company to go public and challenge Robinhood. But Robinhood is the innovative brokerage, and a lot of the younger generation goes to Robinhood. So that's one that I like. LTH is another one that I like. They're reporting earnings again. You can't get heavy ahead of earnings report because of a shakeout. But I like this one. You can see the 10, the 21, and the 50 are now stacked here. Double bottom base pattern, but once again, you got to wait for the data here before you really dig into that one. A couple other ones that I like, EXEL. Yeah, you can see the consolidation here. They're going to report next week, just trading within a base, trading tight, just grinding higher. You can see the blue dot indicating relative strength here. There you go. Flat base here, and there's another base. And the reason why this is stage one is because this base undercut the prior base. So it restarts this stage, that's all. Some people question that from time to time. Okay, WPM is another one that I like. Gold was up today. This is WPM. It pulled back to its 21 and continued to get support here. So it constantly like came down, came down, came down, found support, bounce, bounce, bounce. Today up 3%. Just kind of like this action here, kind of a pennant type move. Still needs to tighten up, between 80 and 85. That thing looks pretty darn good to me. When I'm doing gold, I've got to go to Agnico. This is one of the leaders in the group. This one's still below its 21 though, where WPM was getting support at the 21. This one is just a tick below. Not a big deal. Then Harmony is one of the big winners of 2025, and this one now traded up 6% today, and it's 2.9% above the 21. I did not check to see how gold was trading. This morning I did, and gold was higher. So I'll check again. Normally I check in the morning. I don't really make a point of it to look at, during the day, but I did notice that gold was up in the morning and oil was down. But anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. In honor of the great Steve Jobs, the prior mentioned Steve Jobs from Warren Buffett on the weekend, we have one more thing, and that is earnings from Palantir this afternoon. Palantir reported, I guess they beat on the top and bottom line. I didn't really get into it. I'll have more in the morning. You could see this cup-shaped pattern, and oftentimes I mention this over and over again, when they rip up straight from the bottom, oftentimes they need some time to wiggle around a little bit, get some profit takers out of the stock. That's fine at 114, 110. If it trades down to its 21, let's get that figure here in the 21. Today the 21 was at 105. Wow, it's got a ways to go. So 113 is the 10. We'll see what happens with it if it trades down to the 10 tomorrow and finds support. But I think the earnings report was okay. I'll have more in the morning on these earnings report at mcstockcharts.com, but I think that was a pretty good report. HIMS, I did see this report. This is a really strong report. Yeah, this is probably, options related. Once again, though, straight off the bottom, 24 to 42, 43, probably needs some time to digest here around the 39 area. Nothing wrong with that. Probably some options shenanigans as well. But you could see on this stock here, the 10 is just trading through the 50 here, and the 21 is going to do the same thing, provided it doesn't really shake out hard. I like the numbers here, obviously, and this doesn't have the updated numbers, but yeah, really strong sales growth here, above 90%. All right. So who else reported today? Ford. Ford did not give any guidance, and it sold off because of the tariff. There's just too much uncertainty. BRBR, the bell ringer brands. Down 8%. I did not see the report if they hit or miss. Vertex, I saw they missed on sales, they missed on earnings. This thing doesn't move a lot on earnings reports. I'll have more on this in the morning. This is a really stellar drug stock. I mean, they have a huge pipeline, and you can see it's just been a winner. It just grinds higher. This one is very tough to trade. It marches to the beat of its own drum. You'll see when the market's up, it'll be down. When the market's down, it'll be up. It'll drive you crazy trying to trade it. So definitely, good long-term hold. EVER is EverQuote. They reported, yeah, these insurance have had a hard time recently. This one has come straight off the bottom from 19 up to 26. So it looks like it might get a little bit of a haircut tomorrow. Clorox reported after the bell. I think they missed, and they missed on guidance, down 3%. That's kind of a, widow's stock. And then CORT, I did not see anything about this. Volatile biotech stock, speculative, um, trading, gosh, above the 50 here. Let me see, it's down 9% at 67. So that's going to take it near the 50 tomorrow. We'll see if it trades down to the 50 and finds support. Anyway, I'll have more in the morning on that stuff. And then we have a lot of, stock reporting early in the morning tomorrow. And then tomorrow afternoon, it's going to be a busy week. And so I'll have more in the morning. And thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Thank you for watching.